It says request host to start cloud recording.
Yeah, I'll just throw it on drive. It's fine.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Did you get a chance to kind of take a look at the questions there?
I've looked at the questions. You're gonna read them. I haven't had a chance to put them on my.
Yeah, I can read them. That's fine. Um, Before we dive in, is there what would you even look up for clutch? Like the Vladdy, not like the last question
Health.
drives me a little nuts with like he was atrocious the last 3 seasons. Obviously, this is a person who doesn't know what the word atrocious means. Um, Bona fide double play king. Like, is there a way to find out if he hit into more double plays than average? I don't even know what that stat would be.
I think the stat is GIDP, so we can
Yes.
see if there's a leaderboard for that.
He has one
GIDP.
clutch game winning hit in 3 seasons. Like all I could find is what was they posted in because like with 0 outs he hits 311, with 1 out he hits 315, with 2 outs he hits 321. With runners in scoring position, his OPS is 866, knowing that the average OPS in 2024 is 699. But I guess it's his version of clutch. Like, does clutch mean is clutch only if you're in a playoff game? Like,
Hold on, I think I'm onto something here. This is great audio. Okay, so
Patreon
this
gets
season
okay.
he is 26th on the list for double plays.
Okay. So he does hit into a lot of double plays.
Is 26 not good? I think that's pretty good. He hit into 11.
Right.
Manny Machado's number one with 20. Luis
Yeah.
Arias second with 17. Marcelo Zuna 16.
Basically, if you're putting the ball in play a lot, you're going to hit into more double plays, right? Like,
um, yeah. So last season he was fourth. So that's an argument
against him.
against him. I guess like when I say he's 26th in double in grounded into double plays, if he was 26th in home runs, you'd be like, oh, he doesn't hit
Yeah.
enough home runs.
Yeah.
So I'd say 26 is like okay for a hitter
Who's taking as many at bats as he
that
is.
prominence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, in 2022, he was first.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, he was seventh. So, yeah, I mean, I guess in the last 4 seasons, he's usually like a top 10, top five in grounded. But that feels right. That just
Yeah.
feels like confirming what we all feel like he hits into
Yeah.
a lot of. But
I
also,
mean,
then, like, guess who else is on
also,
this list right up there? Juan Soto and
yeah.
like
Yeah.
Pete Alonso and
Also, if you look back on 2022, I mean, Alejandro Kirk had the most at bats at cleanup that year. Vladdy always hits third. So like if you're at first base, I guess that's not him grounding into double plays though. That's just Kirky doing that, and he's the runner at second. But
I got nothing. I lost you for a second there.
sorry, I didn't say anything, so you're good.
Oh, you started the sentence with if you look back at 2022, ah, and then you froze.
Oh, I was just saying, if you look back on 2022, he hit third most of the season. I mean, he hits third. Doesn't really matter the year, but Kirk was behind him. But I mean, that doesn't really. It's just like I don't know. It's not like the Jays are a very fast team. It makes sense that like I wonder where the Jays are on the list of teams that hit into double plays.
Well, that is one thing from browsing these lists is like Springer is 8th this year.
Yeah.
Bichette is 22nd. So like Justin Turner is up on this list. Like, it does seem like not only is Vlad top 10 consistently, there seems to be always 2 or 3 Blue Jays as well in the top 20.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a coaching thing. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I
Maybe
blame
it's
John
bad luck.
Schneider.
How do you just
Yeah. No, it's a good
always have
question. Like,
the bad luck
what?
of things?
Yeah. How much is it? Okay.
So,
Works for me.
decisions to do hit and runs maybe are not happening when other teams do to
Yeah.
prevent that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's again, I think if one guy's hitting into double plays all the time, that's on him, right?
Yes.
But if a bunch are all doing it, that's
Bless you.
that's systemic, and that's how is it in place? Is that
Yeah.
not a system problem, like a failure of, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
No, agreed.
Did you grab the 2 from Patreon to add to the list
Yeah, I
of
did, I
questions?
think. Um,
One from Wyatt and one from Mark.
yeah, got him. And one.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool, cool,
got him.
cool.
All right. You good to go?
I'm good to go.
All right. In three, two, one. Hello and welcome to the Walk Off, folks. I'm Scott Belford, joined by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. This is our mailbag, running it every single Tuesday, where we comb through your week's interactions and answer as many comments and questions as we can. A Monday morning mailbag on a Tuesday afternoon. It has become a staple here on the Walk Off. Really appreciate all of you who do reach out. Of course, you can always get a hold of us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. Or if you are a Patreon member, obviously we extend our thank yous to you, but also you get bonus content, MLB Mondays every single Monday, and you get that Patreon bump on mailbag. So if you do have a question or a comment, you automatically get it into the show. And then finally, last but not least, we try and get through as many on YouTube as we can. We know that it's just not possible to get you on every time. So if you do have a comment or question, just keep trying. That's all I can say. Most of you are pretty persistent, so the squeaky
Good.
wheel gets the grease. Be that
Yep.
wheel.
Be that wheel.
All right. We can get right into it here. I'm in Halifax right now visiting my sister. So Adam's up extra early here doing his part to make sure we get this thing out. And we'll start with Twitter. Megan DM'd us, and this was an interesting question, and I liked how she kind of put it together here. So, hey guys, curious your thoughts on this Will Wagner the team got from Houston. Will he be called up this year? Would you prefer they call him up or Joey Votto? Now, what I did like about this question is that yeah, Will Wagner, not really a defense first guy. He kind of profiles a lot like Spencer Horowitz in that he's a left handed hitter, not a ton of power, does not strike out, walks way more than he actually gets K'd, and has a really good eye at the plate. and actually hit his first dinger in Buffalo just recently. So he is a guy, 26 years old, who probably we are going to see in this lineup at some time in 2024. And Adam, Joey Votto, not really a defense first guy anymore either. 41 years old.
Well, not an offense first guy. I'll tell you that too. Hot dog first guy.
So Joey finally is healthy. I mean, he stepped on that bat dude in spring training. If you were to have guessed that it took until August for him to be playing regular time in the minors, you would have thought that he had a major break or something, correct? Like an ankle tweak has seemed to keep him out for months here.
Yeah, I mean he's gotta be what, 40 now?
Yeah, 40
How
going
old
on
is he?
41.
40, yeah, he'll be 41 in a month.
Yeah.
So that feels right. I mean, we've all stepped on a piece of Lego or sneezed too hard. I've been like, oh, I gotta go to the doctor now. I don't know
Yeah.
about this. So yeah, that feels right. Um, yeah, I don't know. Are you excited to see Joey Votto in a Blue Jays uniform?
I mean, there's a little romance to it. And grounds crew, drop your comments below here, obviously. I mean, the Jays are just a bad team this season. And would it be a nice story to see a Tobaco born and raised Joey Votto playing on his hometown Toronto Blue Jays for the last month of his career? Yeah. Would I, looking forward to 2025, prefer to see them, if it's between Will Wagner and Joey Votto, would I prefer to see them give the guy who's going to possibly be around long term with this team get some rope? Probably. Can you do both? I mean, probably.
Yeah, I think there's room in this lineup for both of those things to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still not on the Joey Votto Canadian bandwagon of romance. So I'll just bite my tongue on that one. Am I
I
actively
mean,
rooting against him? A little bit. I won't say it out loud, but
yeah.
I want him to still be able to walk at the end of his career. I won't like wish the worst
No,
injuries
of
upon
course
him.
not.
But yeah, I'd rather just I'm entirely over the romance of Joey Votto and like, oh, it'd be cool for him to have this thing. I don't care if that. I don't know. That's just me.
Will Wagner, by the way, is an interesting
Give me
prospect. I
Will.
mean, Billy Wagner, of course, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Blue Jays sticking with that bloodlines love of theirs. Try and get them to not be in on a former major leaguer's kid. They can't do it. It is kryptonite to them. They love it. It's catnip. They're basically cats getting into the nip when it comes to bloodlines. And
That's
I
getting into the net.
and
Nice.
Will Wagner, dude, I mean, I was looking into his numbers, 300 hitter in AAA, very similar to, like I said, Spencer Horwitz. So I think you got to give this guy some run. The fact that he's 26 and knocking on the door like this, he's again like an unhyped prospect that has just managed to find a niche for his skills, which is incredible bat to ball and sticking with his plan at the plate kind of guy. Something that this Blue Jays team has struggled with over the years here. So maybe a guy like this, you get Spencer at second and Will Wagner taking some reps at third. You're going to have guys on base here for Vladdy, especially with the way Vladdy is hitting, who is one player of the week here in Major League Baseball. So, yeah, if you had
Um,
to go ahead.
I was just gonna say, notable for Will Wagner. I mean, obviously, super hot start and a super small sample size in AAA, hitting
Mhm. In Buffalo.
636
Yeah.
OPS. Sorry, yeah, and what did I say?
Well, you just said AAA. I was just
Oh,
expanding on your
adding
that
on it.
this is since he's become a Blue Jay. Yes.
Gotcha. 636 batting average and a 1805 OPS. It's only 3 games,
but that'll play.
but that'll play. We'll bank on that. Um, no, but his time in Houston minor league system also impressive numbers. 307 on the season over 70 games
Mhm.
with an 853 OPS. And then even all of last season, his numbers across 3 levels of minor league ball, 337 batting average with a 938 OPS. So it is not just like, oh, we got some random guy and he's having a hot start, like a good first impression. Like, no, 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 like
Yeah,
he's a good hitting prospect who's continuing to hit good. So that's good. It's encouraging.
it is. We will move on here. Darren DM'd us on Twitter. Guys, I keep hearing Vladdy extension talks getting brought up, not just with you guys, but everywhere. No way he signs in Toronto. They need to trade him and get what they can. I don't know what Darren knows we don't know, but he's not going to come back to Toronto, I hear.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we got a higher than 50% chance we sign Vlad.
Honestly, I think that the worst case scenario is just what Adam laid out there. I do think that there's a 50% chance he comes back to Toronto. I think that it's probably more likely that he does push for free agency, sees what his value is on the open market, because the thing is Toronto's going to make him an offer. And it's probably going to be a very generous offer. And I know that we've talked about it before. Some comps, Rafael Devers seems to be the best comp out there. Boston obviously locking him up at 26 years old last year. Same age range. Vladdy doesn't play third, but it's not like Rafael Devers is a hot corner whiz. I mean, he has done a
Yeah.
lot to improve his defense at third base, but he definitely isn't going to win a gold glove anytime soon. And I think Vladdy kind of in that same category, not necessarily at first, as we know he does hold a gold glove from 2022. So his defense is definitely adequate at first base. Are we going to see Vladdy continue to get more reps at third? Adam, what do you think? Like, is this something this organization will do moving forward?
I don't know. Want to see, probably won't see.
Yeah.
It's, I just, if we were going to see it, I think we would have seen more of it by now.
Hmm.
Like this season,
Yeah.
there's been, we've been out of it for a while. Uh, Now post trade deadline, if we were going to see him play third more, he'd already be starting to do that. He has 5 games at third on the season.
Might end the season with 10.
That's kind of a good over under to set, I think, if you're playing that game. I'd say, yeah, around 10.
And
If
I
he
mean,
got 20
Vladdy,
games at third by the end of the season, I'd be shocked.
yeah, so
Never
would I.
mind, what is there, 50 games left?
Hmm.
I'd want to see at least 30 to 40 games out of him. I'd love to see 50, but
Especially when you
not
look
a big
at
role.
Buffalo and some of these guys that are knocking at the door, third base does seem to be, especially with them moving on from IKF, a spot where some of these dudes can get reps, right? Like you look at, we just talked about him, right? Will Wagner, he plays third. You talk about a guy like Ernie Clement's going to need reps. He plays third. Even Davis
Yeah.
Schneider plays some third. So there's guys where you're like Riley Torada, I know, friend of the show. He's been pushing hard at Buffalo too. Another guy who might get his major league debut before the end of the season here in 2024. Same thing, right? First and third are his positions. Damiano Parmigiani, another friend of the show, who has really started to pick his bat up in the last month here with the Bisons. He got the call up to AAA to start the season. He tore it up in AA last year and definitely has had to get his feet wet again in AAA. You know, like there was a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
an adjusting period, but he's healthy. He's on the field. He's playing first and third, and he's hitting bombs again in Buffalo, very similar to what he was doing in AA. So another opportunity for the Jays to see what they've got there and give them some reps. So Vladdy playing a bunch of third base, it doesn't make sense this season for this team because there's so many other guys that they need to try and sniff out, right? See what they've got. And if you're clogging up, the only reason I can see Vladdy playing third is if one of these guys, let's for example say Damiano Parmigiani, gets called up and is playing first because they both play first and third. So
Here's where I push back on that. Not your point, but that path forward. That path forward of let's see which of our minor leaguers could hack it at third is a recipe for competing in 2027, 2028. It is not
yes.
a recipe for we're going to contend next year. We're going to be right back here going for it again. I think Vlad at third is a more short term. Let's see what we got if we can go get a first baseman. That's just me.
In your opinion, do you think that it adds any value to a prospect such as a Damiano Parmigiani or a Riley Terada, or Will Wagner even, calling them up and giving them some big league time? Do you think that that increases? And I know it's going to be very very marginal, but do you think there is an advantageous swing to getting them up here this year in the idea of maybe you can sweeten a trade with some of these guys, or do you think it's pretty irrelevant?
Well, let's look to one Davis Schneider as a
Mhm.
comparable because we called him up around this time last year. 35 games is what he played last season. I don't know when in August he got his call up. Had as good of a 35 game stretch as you could possibly have. What did we do with him?
Yeah,
Right?
moved him to left field and let him
Move him to
play
a different
100 games.
position. And but so like if Will Wagner, if we called him up and again, Davis Schneider, literally like a top 10 all time
Yes.
start to a career, right? Like that's it. Did you have
Yeah.
any confidence giving him a position to start the season? So like that's where I'm at with like Will
Yeah.
Wagner. If he comes up and what has a top 5 all time start to his career,
Hmm.
what we're gonna be like, oh yeah, he's our third baseman of 2025. Like we're not gonna have any, I should hope not, have any like confidence based on calling up Damiano Palmigiani right now to be like, oh yeah, yeah, really good
Yeah.
40 games at the end of last season. I feel good with him at third for the year. Like there's no way we could feel that because we just went through it with David Schneider. It was the best possible,
Hmm.
literally one of the best possible outcome you could ever hope for as anyone ever. And it was still like, yeah,
I kind of
I
agree
don't
with you.
know.
I don't think it adds any sort of tangible value on the open market, although I do think there is value in some of these guys getting their feet wet in the big leagues for development within the
Yeah.
organization, right?
And again, for like the
For
long goal of like
2027.
2026, 2027,
Yeah.
2028. Yeah, having a guy like get up and start coming and or a couple guys up and see who's the, you know, the better of the options. That's it.
Yeah.
But it does not instill confidence to pencil in. Oh yeah, Ernie Clement is our third baseman next year because he hit 400 in September.
Yeah.
Done. We're
Yeah.
that'll transfer to next year, and and then I guess maybe does it increase the trade value of these guys in the off season potentially? But anybody else is going to feel the same way that we do
Yeah.
of like, wow, all right, this is an upside prospect who has done good
It's the
for
type of thing
himself.
where
No one
like
else is
it
going to be like, oh, give us Ernie Clement to be our starting third baseman. I don't.
Yeah, it may increase the developmental value of these guys slightly, but I don't think that it actually translates into assets you would receive back, right? So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
again, that's a long term plan. I'm not saying there's no benefit to it,
yeah,
but
of
it is it
course,
is It is not the chicken salad they're trying to sell me of let's compete next year. This isn't how you do it. Like if that's what we do, that's not. It's mixed signals at best.
Yeah. Last comment from Twitter. Mike actually tweeted at us, mailbag. It's beginning to feel like Bo may have already played his last game as a J. With this update, I can't imagine he's in much of a hurry to get back to play meaningless baseball on a last place team. Thoughts? And so what he had done is he had quote tweeted Hazel May's update, which was Bo Bichette is still in Florida rehabbing calf. This is an injury he's been struggling with for literally 2.5 months, dude. So Bo Bichette is still in Florida rehabbing calf. He has not taken part in any baseball activities as of yet, but John Schneider said he will get a better idea of where he's at, update in a week or two. I think Mike makes a very astute point here that, and calf injuries, dude. I mean, fuck. Look at Kevin Durant. I mean, his calf injury literally derailed his entire career while he was trying to play through it. Like there is something to be said for maybe shutting it down and letting yourself get 100% healthy, especially in a season where you're playing on a team that is just going to finish dead last in the division. I mean, even if
Yeah.
this team gets hot at them, they're going to finish
Yeah.
last in the AL East.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will throw the question to you then. Where are you at on Bo Bichette? All the lip service from Shapiro and Atkins is that they are obviously going to run this team back, right? They're going to try and compete in 2025. Bo Bichette, obviously a huge piece, a huge player in the 2025 scheme of things. I mean, even if they do move on from him, that's a pretty big hole to fill in the middle of the lineup. Look at how much this team has struggled during his worst season of his career, right? Like
Yeah.
without Bo Bichette's bat, even if it's Bo Bichette in the lineup, when he loses his bat, it hurts. So where are you at? Do you think that this team could possibly be considering a, let's call it the Adames switch, going out and getting a guy like Willie Adames and moving on from Bo Bichette on the trade market? Do you think that if Bo is healthier, they can spin it a little bit more as, listen, we know that this was a horrible season. We probably pushed him through injuries we shouldn't have. That's on us. The old Moneyball trick, right? Where we misused him.
Yeah.
He's still the guy that you saw 5 years before, or for the last 5 years. The 4 years, not counting this one, is the guy that he is.
So what's the question here?
Where do you think this team is at on Bo Bichette? Can you see them doing an Adamas switch where they go out and get like a Willie on the open free agent market and then move Bo for assets that they possibly could fill other holes in this lineup? Or do you think that Bo Bichette is not, because this is what Mike was tweeting, right? Is that it feels like he could already have played his last game as a Blue Jay. Is that possible in your mind? And even if you want to give like a percentage, what do you think the percentage of Bo Bichette
Yeah.
having played his last game as a Blue Jay?
Yeah, I think it's possible. He's played his last game as a Blue Jay. I think it's a bummer the way it has played out. Love Bo Bichette as a player. I'll continue to cheer for him wherever he goes. Um, I don't think he plays again this year. Maybe he does. I'm cool if he doesn't.
Yeah, me too.
I don't. I don't know. I don't see him coming back and all of a sudden finding it this season. He's at 79 games played right now out of like 110, 115, right? So he's
Yeah.
missed 40-ish, 30 to 40 games already. I just think what's best for who? Like the Blue Jays, I don't think get any extra if the plan's to trade him this offseason. move on from him. I don't think we increase his trade value by having him come back and play. I
Yeah,
think anybody that is interested in Bo Bichette is interested in him based on the first 4 years of his resume, not the most recent year.
yeah.
And then, I mean, 4-1 for a resume. It's pretty easy to look at one and go, "Oh yeah, that's he was injured all year." Like
Especially when you look at the games played like you did, and you're like 79, so not even half a season, and then he was injury prone the
yeah,
whole
like
time. Like, yeah,
it's a pretty easy connection to make. Like I don't think you have to really twist any GM's arm into buying that sale. Like if you're calling
yeah,
up the Dodgers, you're like, "Hey, you guys need a shortstop. We have Bo Bichette." And they're like, "Oh, he only hit 223 last year. No thanks."
yeah,
I think anybody is like, "Oh yeah, a guy who is always like at the top of the league in hits, like not necessarily a power bat, but whatever, suspect glove and arm, okay." But like you know what you're getting with Bo Bichette. This was an unfortunate injury year. Now you're just going, is this the first of a horrific line of injuries, and he's just only going to play 80 to 100 games a year for the next 10 years? Or do you go, yeah, it's unfortunate. He got an injury and then never really got right
yeah,
and had the same thing popping up, or had overcompensation injuries pop up, right? Like if it's an ankle and then you overwork your calf in order to stable, like stuff happens, right? And then the
yeah.
knee, it's all a chain, right? So it's for smarter people than me to decide. But yeah, I don't think even if he came back and hit 300 for the rest of the year,
How much
do you
value is that adding? Like,
right? That it puts his batting average from 223 up to 250. That's not getting anybody's dick hard.
yeah,
Right? And I know batting average is an outdated stat, but okay, look at whatever one you want to look at then. Moves his OPS from whatever it is, 705 to 730.
yeah.
Like, ooh, his OPS is 597. I was
No,
really
I know.
generous with that estimation.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, he's
Okay, so
having a
from
terrible season.
597 to 637, like it's either
I
way, you
still,
get
man, it
the point.
stands out to me sitting in Seattle next to a couple of Mariners fans, right? Walk
Yeah.
off Mariners, Juan and Jordy. And Bo Bichette comes to the plate and his stats come up on the Jumbotron. And Jordy turns to me and goes, Bo Bichette has
Yeah.
4 fucking home runs. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's been rough, man. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's where I'm at with like I don't think there's a benefit to him coming back for us.
Hmm.
And then for himself as a selfish move, but like I'm for it for him, is like even for us, if we don't move on from him next year, you just get healthy. Like this, like
Yeah, get
there's
healthy and ignore this season. Just pretend it didn't even
no
happen.
benefit for him being here now.
Yeah,
Just get healthy, whether you're here or not. There's
yeah,
no upside to coming back. And again, it opens up a spot, like we were
it
just talking
does.
about, for a minor league guy to go get some reps at shortstop at the
Yeah.
big league level. And so let's do it. I think let's look at it as a glass half full, silver lining, whatever,
Hmm.
and move on. But as for here's the second part of that question, though. This is a bit of a long letter to the mailbag, but whatever. Has he played his last game as a Jay? Do the Jays move on? I'm in the camp of I think Ross Atkins, and we'll touch on. I think there's a comment on this later. I think he's here next year,
Yeah.
and I think he's going to try and run it back.
Uh,
And I don't like it,
no.
but that's where I kind of feel like with Bo Bichette, we're like, nah, we're just going to use this last year, squeeze every ounce of blood we can out of this orange, and I don't. I'm not thrilled with it, but that's kind of where I feel like I think he's played his last game as a J this season. He
Hmm.
might play in like AAA and do some rehab games. He
Yeah.
might come back. He might come back. I'm not saying the season's over. He'll probably come back. Probably come back because they'll be like, oh, ticket sales, renovations, jerseys, man, need Boba Shed out there. But yeah, it's probably back as a J next year too.
So this kind of expands on this last question. This is from Wyatt
Okay.
G in Patreon. Of course, the Patreon bump. If you are a member of the Walk Off Patreon, a thank you. And also for your patronage, you get automatically your questions and comments in the mailbag. So he says, "Hey fellas, got one for mailbag. If this front office can extend Vladdy this offseason, are you okay with the Jays not trading Bo and potentially losing him to free agency for nothing but a compensatory draft pick? The reason I ask is because I truly believe if the Jays want to make a deep playoff push, they will need his bat."
I don't really know where to start on that.
Yeah,
How do
I
you feel?
I hate this. I hate the idea of losing Bo Bichette for a fourth round draft pick, maybe
Mm-hmm.
a second.
Mm-hmm.
It it feels like a complete waste of assets. I would
Yeah.
far rather them bite the bullet and trade him in the offseason and go out and spend some money on a shortstop like Willie Adames. There's options out there at shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see how it's beneficial to lose, and generational might be the wrong term here. I don't know if Bo Bichette is necessarily a generational talent, but let's just call him a well above average talent in Major League Baseball right now. To lose a guy with the hype around him, number one, there are going to be organizations out there that view Bo Bichette very highly. To just let him walk for nothing, I don't like. That said, like if the Jays are legitimate contenders next year, that's a little different. And I do get the feeling like you kind of touched on Adam last question that Ross
Mm-hmm.
Atkins is probably it feels like he's coming back. We'll see. Obviously, this is all
Mm-hmm.
circumstantial, but if he is running him back, maybe he kind of has in his mind, you know what, we can move him at the trade deadline if we're out of it. But if that's the case again, why the hell is Ross Atkins the guy that's going to be in charge of that? I mean, I haven't really said a lot here, but Wyatt, long story short, no, I am not okay with losing him for a comp draft pick personally, and I would love to hear what the mail or the grounds crew feels about this. Feel free to drop your comments. Bo Bichette, losing him, running him back, trying to compete. Are you okay losing him for nothing?
Yeah, it seems so unrealistically optimistic for me
Yeah.
to say, yeah, playoff run. We'll be glad we had him. Um, I guess here's where I'm at with Bo Bichette and the when I go back and forth on the pros and cons of keeping him or trading him is follow this logic, okay?
Okay.
If the only upside to keeping Bo Bichette and then eventually losing him and all we get back is a compensatory draft pick. The only way we're okay with that is if we make a deep playoff run, correct?
Correct.
Like win a round of playoffs or two, right? Like I'm at least ALCS, and you're like, all right, well, cool. Like we finally got over a little bit of a hump. There's something to build on here. Blah blah blah. Right?
Yeah, I'm not down to be swept in the wild card.
Right.
That's not success.
Right. Um, in that case, the only way I think that happens is if everyone's better. Like if George Springer's healthy again and all the stars line up, the pitching's good, blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? Do you agree with me?
I
Or do
agree.
you think we can do it with like a mediocre team, but Bo's hot?
I
I
don't
don't
know,
think we can.
man.
I think we can do it. I think we can lose to the Mariners in two
Yeah.
if we're mediocre and Bo's hot. I
Yeah. Bo
don't
and
think
Vlad
we can
have
go
a
to the
good season.
ALCS
Exactly.
if that's the case. Right.
Yeah. Pitching comes
So
together. Like, yeah, there's a lot of ifs,
so
dude.
so given that, if in 2025 the team is so good that we can threaten a World Series run,
Yeah. Keep
I
Bo.
think we could. Well, no, I was gonna say I think we can do it without Bo.
Yeah.
Like I think if everyone's that good and we move the pieces that, or we get the pieces that we need to make a World Series run, we added Pete Alonso and Juan Soto and Ernie Clement is great or whatever. I
Yeah.
think we are okay if we lost Bo Bichette. So let's just lose him in that case. Like I
Yeah.
just that's my train of thought and my logic is like if he's good enough for us to benefit from having him,
Hmm.
or if we're good enough to benefit from having him, then we're good enough to survive not having him. In
Especially
which
if you look
case,
at,
give me the assets back, not a draft pick.
and that's what I was going to say. Like, you look at some of the organizations that have given up pieces for major players coming back, and it's normally fairly substantial. So, like, even just to
Yeah.
use the Dodgers as an example, maybe you can get a pitcher back. Like, they are very deep in pitching. Maybe a guy like Bobby Miller can come back.
Yeah.
And then you're bolstering a pitching staff and getting some prospects back, and for a guy on a 1 year deal until he hits free agency. And I mean, the
Mhm.
Dodgers have so much money. If they truly want Bo Bichette in free agency, he's theirs, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
all
Absolutely.
right. Moving on. Mark
Move
Drabert
on.
reached out on Patreon. He says, "Why do I get the sense that Atkins is going to get one more year? And they're truly going to
Mhm.
try and compete next season, which would only delay the needed rebuild even further. That's pretty much a nightmare scenario for this franchise." So,
Yep.
Adam, there's kind of two streams of thought here, right? And it's the Blue Jays aren't as bad as they actually are looking this year, and baseball's a funny sport, and a few positive regressions from guys and some well placed free agent signings, and this team is actually pretty decent.
Hold on. What year is it? Is this 2024 or is this 2022 or is this 2023? Because I've heard this narrative before. I'm sick of it.
Yes. The other train of thought is very much what Mark is touching on here, which is the inevitable is that this team needs a major reboot. I don't know how deep the rebuild actually needs to go, but obviously deep enough where losing Bo Bichette for nothing would hurt this franchise long term. So where are you at then? Like, do you think Atkins is going to be? I know we touched on this. We both kind of agree. We feel like they're going to try and squeeze another year out of Atkins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's gonna get to see this through and
And the question
ride
is, see
this.
what through though? Like,
Well, I mean, like this is very terrible analogy, but like if you have a sick pet and it's time to put it down, you drive it to the vet,
yes.
right? You don't sell it on Facebook Marketplace and be like, "Hey, dying pet for sale. Anybody else want to put this thing down?" Like,
Yeah.
so that's what he's got to do next year. He's got to drive the Blue Jays to the vet and put us down. But he's got to be the one to do it.
Grounds crew, drop your comments. Ross Atkins, is he going to be the general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays in 2025? I really hope he is not. I think that
Uh,
and I've said this a million times, dude. I'm almost sick of saying it. Like, you get one rebuild. Like we're 9 years in here. We're gonna start letting him retool the
but you don't let
core
him
of
pick
this
out the
team.
next pet. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it does
Yeah.
feel like, man, yeah, it's
So Metal Manic in Patreon messaged us and he said a pre-extension Vladdy at third base could backfire. If he excels at the position, his price tag certainly increases.
I'm cool
Also,
with
best
that.
case scenario, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd love that. If
Yeah.
Vladdy becomes a $400 million third baseman, boy, am I on board with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Especially
Like,
if Bo's leaving anyways, and we don't have because that's always been the thing, right? It's like, oh, can we afford to keep both of them? It does feel inevitable that like, well, Bo's gone, so yeah, we can afford one megastar for sure. We can. There's no
mhm.
doubt in my mind we can afford a single mega star. And I'm not saying Vlad is that, but yeah, in a situation where we try him out at third and he's just like Matt Chapman with a sick bat,
Yeah,
you go, okay, that was a great problem to have. What a great cornerstone to build our team around. Here's a bunch of money.
couldn't agree more. Going to YouTube. We are down to our final two here. Nat Turner's Wit Burners says it looks more like a retool than a rebuild. Many of the prospects are 23 to 25 that the team has got back, and some are major league ready. Could be with the big club within a year or two. To which I say, yeah, that's 100% what it feels like here. The lip service does feel like it is genuine, which is that they are going to do their best to retool on the fly and compete for the next year or two. I don't know if that's the right direction, but Ross Atkins at the helm feels like what's going to happen.
Yeah. If we, is there anything we can do this off season to get you like excited? I mean, obviously we're gonna be excited for ball next season, right?
Yeah.
Obviously we're gonna follow the team through the off season, but like excited of like I might have to take October off. Like I might have. Oh, I mean, you're already in Toronto, so you don't have to fly to Toronto. But like,
Yeah.
are there moves that can be made? Do you think
Yeah. I
for
mean,
this team? Is
this is
like,
gonna sound weird, dude, but what would really excite me is Bo being moved for some major
mhm,
stuff coming back. I think Vladdy maybe signing long term would get me pretty excited, and then them actually going out and addressing their needs in free agency. Like a guy like Anthony Santander, who is going to hit 40 dingers this season and has pretty regularly been a 30 home run guy, going out and plugging the hole of cleanup hitter. And I know there's people who are like, how could you say this team hasn't had a cleanup hitter? Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt was amazing. Great WRC
mhm.
plus, above average hitter. In fact, I've defended Brandon Belt many a times. Does Brandon Belt profile as that number 4 you want? I would argue he does not. Justin Turner definitely wasn't the guy. I want a guy with some thump in that 4
Mhm.
hole. I know that's a very old man traditionalist view, but sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel, man.
Yeah.
What about you? Is there stuff that they could do that would get you excited?
Well, I
The reason Bo being moved would excite me, Adam, is that it would signify that this team is looking to extend the window. As crazy as that sounds, because I really do believe that if you go out and bolster this lineup in free agency, move one of Bo or Vlad, and I would prefer Bo because I do truly view Vlad as a guy, unlike who was the guy who said there was no way, Darren on Twitter, who feels there's no way that Vladdy returns to Toronto. I think that it's far more likely that Vlad is the guy, and he's 25 and can still young and can sustain that like being rebuilt around again.
mhm.
I and it would be such a. I think if Bo is moved, I think it means Atkins is gone, which also is something that I
I'm
dearly want.
here for. Um, yeah, I'm looking at the list of like free agents, like if that was the route we went to just like, oh, we're just gonna spend our way out of this.
Yeah.
Like there are some pitching options, like there's a Corbin Burns and there's guys out there
Hmm.
that could be brought in. Positionally, it's like
Like, and you touched on it, dude.
I'm,
Positionally, they kind of need a third baseman. They need a left fielder. They need a DH. Like, going internal options for these, I just don't. How does that excite you? Like, I'm not saying that some of these guys can't be real, legitimate dangers at the plate and great third or baseman or left fielders in the future, but 2025, that's what we're going to rely on? Seems
yeah,
counterintuitive.
you know what? I can already see the headlines now for this off season. It's the Jays dark horse contenders for Juan Soto,
Yeah.
followed by Jays front runners to land Juan Soto, followed by Juan Soto
Is
signs
on
with
a
the
plane.
Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just where Ross Atkins gets fucking suckered again into thinking we're actually going to get the number one guy in free agency.
Hmm.
And then we're going to miss out while Pete Alonso's signing somewhere else, while Alex Bregman is signing somewhere else, where Teoscar is re-signing or signing somewhere else. Like where we're just gonna like all of these options that would have been awesome we could have had, and then we're gonna be like, but we got Ha-Sung Kim. Hey, fuck yeah, he's our big
Hmm.
marquee signing because we were waiting on Juan Soto until the last minute. And there was nobody left.
Yeah.
Doesn't that feel like that's
I mean, my
fucking?
God, I
Wouldn't that
sure
be
hope
just
this front
fitting?
office, if this front office didn't learn their lesson from Shohei Ohtani last year, I don't know what to even say or do. I mean, we're kind of in a real shit situation as Jays fans if that's the case. I mean, the fact Atkins is, a 50-50 chance of keeping his job and being able to do what he wants again for next season is insane to me. But if that is the case and he still hasn't learned his lesson, then man, I don't like that we're fucked. Like,
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, Atkins is probably back. We'll fucking waste the
yeah,
last year of Bo Bichette and toil in mediocrity for one more season. And
exactly. Yeah.
it's
All right, we will end on one last YouTube comment from Poppin' Wheelies. He commented on Friday's episode. We had Nick Ashburn, content
mhm,
contributor for Sportsnet and The Athletic.
mhm.
Great conversation with him. Poppin' Wheelies says, I think both of you are suffering from recency bias on Vlad. He was atrocious for 3 straight seasons. And I will say, Poppin' Wheelies, this is taco time, by the way. Uh,
Of course.
we have a very different view of the word atrocious, obviously, because Vladdy has been at the worst, slightly above average major leaguer, and
Yep.
at best, getting MVP votes in that 3 years he's talking, but
Yep.
fine. Uh, he was the bona fide double play king and struck out constantly on sweepers away. Now, we did look up the numbers on this. If you want to maybe ground into double play stats over the last couple of years here, Adam, maybe starting with this season,
Yeah. So this
which he's
season
improved.
he's
This season he's improved, right?
yeah. So this season he's currently 26th in GIDPs, grounding into double plays with 11. Major League Baseball's leaders, Manny Machado with 20. Um, but like also on this list is like every good hitter you'd expect to see on the home run board. Like Aaron Judge is here, Josh Naylor's here, Pete Alonso, Luis Arias, Bryce Harper
Yeah.
are all more double plays grounded into than Vladdy this year. So it's not the ultimate sign of incompetence that it might feel like at times.
Hmm.
Last season, Vladdy was higher on the list. He was fourth. Finished the season with 23. Um, the year before, he was first with 26. And in 2021, he was 7th with 20. So, yeah, the numbers have improved this year, but
Mhm.
he is, I think, fair to say, consistently like a top 10-ish grounding into double plays. I will say notably, looking at this list, there are consistently multiple Blue Jays in
Yes.
this top 20 list. Back to 2021, you got Randall Grichuk on the list. You got uh Vladdy on the list. I don't think there was any others. The year before, Bichette was 4th when Vladdy was first. Teoscar, though, also on the list at 12. And then last year, when Vladdy finished 4th, we also had Alejandro Kirk at 9th, Bichette at 18th, Whit Merrifield at 25. This year, with Vladdy at 26th, we've got Bichette at 22nd. He's
Which is
22nd in ground into double plays, and
well,
he's
that's
played
crazy
4
because he's
games.
yeah.
Um, and then higher up the list, we've got George Springer, 8th on the list. So Justin Turner, also, by the way, sneaky on this list, listed as a Mariner, but
Mhm.
he's 3rd into grounding into double plays with 16. I'm going to say at least 15 of those were probably as a J.
Yeah.
This feels systemic. This feels
Yes.
like
I mean, it
this
is
is
the
not a
way they've
personal problem. This is
it
a we're not putting hit and runs on. We're not setting our lineups in a way where we have any speed on the bases. Like, I don't
and
know.
I was just
There's
gonna say roster construction has ignored speed pretty regularly over the last couple of years, and that of course is going to lead to higher ground into double plays. It's just going to. So to finish Pop and Wheelie's comment here, he says, sure, he has been on fire for the last month, which I mean, he has been on fire for the last month, but he's putting together a hell of a season. I mean, since April 28th. He's well above 300, an OPS well above 900. And I mean, reading some stats here, the Sentimental Hygiene put in Discord. So Vladdy's season so far in April, I know batting average is a horrible stat to be using here, but that's what we're going on.
Mhm,
April, he hit 214, May 357, June 318, July 358. And in August, he is hitting well above 500 right now.
mhm,
If it weren't for April, he'd be getting MVP votes. And this is another really interesting Vladdy stat here. With 0 outs, he's hit 311. With 1 out, he has hit 315. With 2 outs, he's hit 321. And he has an 866 OPS with runners in scoring position. The man scores runs. Um, Going back to Papa Wheelies, he says he has a lot of making up to do. Another factor to consider is lack of clutch hitting, which I disagree with completely, but that's okay. Another factor to consider is his lack of clutch hitting. He has one clutch game winning hit 3 seasons ago against the Yanks. Even that hit was a ground ball to short that just made it through the infield. So I I might be biased. Recency bias might be creeping in here. I think Poppin' Wheelies is also a little biased in that he is a Vlad detractor, which that's
yeah.
fine. Um, Clutch,
Okay, so definitely more than one game-winning hit. Yeah, that's obviously just a snarky comment when you're
yes,
frustrated. Um, I will say the numbers this year, I'm suspicious of. It's easy to relax and have fun and feel good in the batter's box when the games don't
nothing
mean anything.
matters, and that's true.
I'm sure he could hit 100-mile-an-hour pitches in the batting cages just as well.
Hmm.
That might be too harsh of a statement for me to say, but I would say, would he be hitting the way he's hitting if this was a playoff team in a division race right now? I don't know. I don't know. Um, Before we move on, though, can I just say when we're talking about the base running, grounding into double plays, I was gonna make a snarky comment that whoever's hitting behind Ellie Dela Cruz probably isn't hitting into too many double plays.
Yeah.
Um, Leads Major League Baseball with 57 stolen bases. You want to take a shot in the dark here at who is second in all of Major League Baseball in stolen bases this season?
Um, well, I was gonna say Ronald Acuna, but yeah,
That's a
that's
good guess.
probably just the way you
It's
phrase the
not.
question. It's gonna be a
It's
surprise.
yes and no. I mean, I was surprised when I look at it, but then my second thought was, oh, of course.
Hmm. Trey Turner?
No, this player is a DH.
Interesting. You may have stumped me here.
Shohei Ohtani,
Oh shit! Are you kidding
right?
me?
I'm not kidding you. Second in Major League Baseball with 32 stolen bases right now.
Wow. And
Yeah,
Ellie has 57.
57. Yeah. But isn't that
Man.
one of those like, are you shitting me stats? Oh, yeah, of course. What can't he do? Kind
Oh,
of a
of
moment, right?
course.
Why wouldn't
Wow.
he just also be a great base runner? Like, oh
Yeah.
man. Yeah, that's wild.
I really am curious to go back to Vladdy and Clutch. What is
Okay.
like is Clutch only when the game matters? Like is Clutch only if in a playoff game? And if that's the case, then what stats are you going by? Is it just eye test? Is it just like, like if you look at his it they've sucked in these wild card series. It wasn't just Vladdy.
I mean, yeah, for me, clutch is just a vibe check. Like there isn't a
Yeah.
stat that measures it.
Yeah.
There's no anything
I
to do
mean,
with.
does hitting with runners in scoring position count as clutch? Because he's one of the best in the league at that. Does hitting with two outs count as clutch? He's one of the best in the league at that.
No, yeah, like there's too many variables to put into a is the score close? At what point in the game? Are there
Yeah.
runners on base? How many outs are there? Where is the team in the standings? Like there's just too many
Can can
factors
things
to.
can things be clutch in retrospect? Right? Like if you are up 7-0 and
No,
hit
that's
a,
not
s- a
clutch.
a home run to make it 8-0, but then you
No,
win 8-7, is that's
that's
not clutch. That's just bad
that
baseball.
would be a game-winning run, I guess, technically. Remember Mr. Baseball when Tom Selleck's like when he gets cut and he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I led the club in seventh inning doubles in the month of May or whatever." It's like
Yeah.
that's how specific you got to get for clutch, though. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, two outs, bases loaded, bottom of the eighth in a close game. How did he do? What's his
Hmm.
batting average in those situations? And there's no quick way of looking at that, I would say. Um, yeah, the vibe on Vladdy for me, as far as like, is he clutch? The depressing answer is I still don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
he's had enough opportunities to be clutch.
I agree.
It's a very small sample size.
Hmm. No,
I
I
just
agree, man. I
like
agree.
playoff games are the best measurement. Not to say that like you can't be clutch in April,
Yeah.
but you've really got to be like bottom of the ninth, two bases out, or two bottom of the ninth, two out, bases loaded, full count against Garrett Cole, down by a run. in order to be clutch in April, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
the standard for what's a clutch hit in September and October are a lot different, right? Like, oh yeah, you had like we were up by one and you got an RBI. I don't care how. That's
Yeah.
clutch if it's late in the game. Like against the Oakland
So,
A's, sure, still clutch because we needed the win. It was September and we're, you know,
so
it's a vibe.
let's wrap it there
Okay.
with a question for you, the grounds crew. And it's a vibe question. Is Vladdy clutch? What do you think is clutch? Is a 25-year-old with very little opportunity to be clutch mean he can't be clutch long term? He does ground into a lot of double plays, and that was kind of an
Yep.
eye-opening stat to look into, was that the best players in baseball tend to ground into a lot of double plays. These are the guys that are getting the most at bats, and Vladdy led the league just 1 year ago. So yeah,
You know what?
there's
You know what's not clutch? When you're in fantasy baseball, you need a win and you put Blake Snell on your bench
yes,
for a
for a
complete
no
game
hitter.
shutout. Can you imagine? Oh man, what
Oh
a
man.
bonehead move that
Yeah,
would be.
yeah, right. Okay,
Uh,
folks, thank you so much for all your questions and comments. We really do appreciate all your interaction throughout the week here. Always reach out to us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. If you are a Patreon member, big thank yous, and obviously the Patreon bump. To the rest of you, drop your comments in YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. We've been kind of chasing this milestone down for a while, but we're down to the last, like, I think we've got 17 to go or something like that.
yeah,
So
very close.
let's get it done. Thanks again, gang. Take care.